It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, doing things a little bit different today on Sustainable Living. We got all this crazy weather, and Glenn is a little bit under the weather, but we still wanted to talk about some sustainable living issues since we got this crazy storm that came and hit us last week, Glenn. It's a great time to talk about how we should be ready even for a snowstorm, Glenn.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise, but I'm just surprised it's stayed around as long as it has and kind of gummed up everything, including my sinuses.
Yeah, I got you. Well, this is a great time to, talk about food, water, and shelter. The stores were definitely hit pretty hard before this storm, but like you said, it's lingered because of the amount of ice, and the temperatures have just not moved.
Well, when the storm hit, everybody went out for bread, eggs, and milk, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Packed the parking lot down, and it's still packed down. So it was crazy. My wife did not like going to the store for anything, just because it was just so slick. It just never went away.
Yeah.
It never thawed out, not one bit. So here we are.
And in the case of my house, we didn't see a plow for 3 or 4 days. So, and like you said, it got driven on by cars because people needed to get out. And I'm thinking, I need those ships that break up the ice. We need that version of a truck. Don't send this little 1-ton truck down here. You need to send the biggest one you got, filled with salt in the back, and hopefully the blade. And it did, but they sent 2 trucks down. The one didn't have his blade quite right. He had a real hard time breaking it up, so he sort of was the backup, coming by and only cutting about half of it after the one guy made a pass. So it was, and these guys and gals, they worked nonstop. So you don't want to, get down on them too much. It surprised everybody.
Ground was just way too cold
Mm-hmm.
when it first started snowing. God bless VDOT for pre-treating the roads and things, because that definitely helped.
Yeah.
But the ground was already frozen, everything just stuck, and that's where it stuck.
So some people were without power. Let's talk about some of the things that maybe next time we get something like this that's going to last a little longer. People still, in some cases, haven't been able to get out if they have a 2-wheel drive. My in-laws stayed with us for a week. We just brought them back home, because we felt like, okay, it's, and we made sure we went shopping before we sent them home. But it's something we need to be ready for.
Well, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen storms of all types. So, 2 days before the storm even hit, we just did a lot of things around here, made sure all my generators were up and running, and one of them was not. So it went to the shop and pulled the carb off and got it fixed, and now my neighbor comes, says mine won't start, and so I fixed a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully I've got wood backup, and we've been using it quite a bit, but it's all about the preparation. It's funny how you think you're ready until you're not.
Mm.
Where's all my electric cords? Where's all my adapters? Where's this? Where's that? Well, this year was not too bad. I was pretty ready for it. Had everything kind of organized. Even had a little propane stove ready to go. But fortunately, my circuit in my area did not go down. Now, some people's did. So the preparation made it a little easier for me, even though I didn't need it. But there was a lot of people that did not have that option. And that's just the sheer frigid temperatures makes heating your house extremely hard.
Yes.
People are really going to cry when the electric bill comes in this time around.
Right.
I don't know how they're going to pay the bills, to tell you the truth, because they were stretched pretty thin to start with.
Right.
So whatever people could do, we were doing it. you haven't heard a whole lot of panic over it, but a few people are already, bracing for that bill to come in from AEP because heat pumps just do not work in this kind of temperature.
Right.
They'll operate the blower inside your house with heating coils. That is an expensive way to heat a house. It just is. So everybody made do with the best they had, and that's that.
When it comes to preparing, and like you said, a heat pump will only do so much. I mean, just some simple things like, get you a good, nice set of sweats and sweatshirts and sweatpants and layer up. I mean, I'm okay with layering up in my own house if that's what I have to do.
My grandmother would say, if you're cold, jump up and down. So, an extra sweater, an extra, like I said, put your long johns on like Grandpa did.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of temperatures outside was dangerous, whether people know it or not. That's how you get frostbite.
Yes.
And, so it was nothing to joke with. It's kind of an oddity that we had where the polar vortex, whatever they want to call that, broke loose and pushed all that cold air down. Can you imagine how people in Canada feel,
oh my
when
gosh.
the winter time comes. That's why they all moved to Florida.
Right.
So,
and even
I've considered it.
I talked to my people because I still have a lot of them in the Tampa Bay area and some of them up near Ocala, and they were calling me asking them what to do about their hot water heaters because they're in their garage and there's no heat in the garage, and they were going to be getting 20-degree temperatures overnight and that kind of thing. And one of the things I told my sister-in-law is open your cabinet, any cabinets that are on a outside wall where there is plumbing, open those cabinet doors and believe it or not, some of that heat getting in there will help. It's not a cure-all, but every little bit helps. It's surprising.
Well, 32 degrees is freezing. 33 degrees is not. So 1 degree difference may make that difference. I agree.
Yeah. So Florida's been chilly as well. So I don't know. Even in Miami was going to report, I think, upper 20s here the other night. But so the heat obviously is something that we have to be concerned about in keeping ourselves warm. Water, obviously, another one. What about this whole idea, Glenn, of like letting your cold water have a slow drip?
That does work. That keeps the ice crystals from forming solid. They may be, if you looked at the inside of a pipe, had a way to do that magically. Those ice crystals start to form, and they just get more closed up as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But the water temperature coming out of the ground is just slightly warmer than your outside wall or whatever it is. So that's bringing in that 1 or 2 degree difference, or even larger degree of difference. Ground is supposed to be 55, but right now it is not. But so letting that drip does keep the ice crystals from forming completely solid in your pipes. Will it last forever like that? Who knows? Depends on how good your pipes are buried and how well your house is insulated. So there's a lot of things, but it is definitely a help.
If you have, and I know a lot of us have, hot water heaters in the basements or whatever, and some of those basements are, cold spots. They don't have heat. Is there anything that we can do? I was concerned for my sister-in-law because she was worried about her hot water heater, freezing and bursting and all that kind of thing. And I said, just quite honestly, put a little space heater out there, make sure it's not near anything and you're not running extension cords, and then open the door into the garage from the house and just let some of that heat work its way in. Hot water heaters generally are insulated pretty well, right?
Correct. The heater's not probably going to burst, but the cold water line going into it, probably probably would. It would freeze up.
Okay.
That has the potential to burst. But like you said, if you can keep it above that magic number of 32 degrees, you have a chance of it not doing. Of course, insulating pipes. I actually went to the local Home Depot and bought a bunch of plumbing fittings.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got a feeling when everything thaws out, everybody's going to go, "Oh my gosh, my pipes were frozen solid.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've unthawed, and now I got water leaks."
Yeah.
So while I was there, I was watching what people were buying. Thank goodness the Lowe's and Home Depot and some of the other hardware stores stocked up on generators and immediately called for generators, which we didn't actually need in this area, but it was a smart thing.
Mm-hmm.
But people were buying these generators so fast. They sold 100 generators in less than 3 hours.
Oh my! Wow.
So, okay, now a lot of people have generators. The other thing I seen was a lot of pipe insulation and the little heat tapes.
Yes.
Putting heat tapes, in areas that have frozen in the past, which is a big deal. I've got them in my barn on where I feed my animals. Got to have water to the animals, so I put my heat tapes on there prior to the storm, and that did fairly well.
Okay.
So all that kind of stuff that people were doing was preparing while the storm was happening. That is not the thing to do. It makes it twice as hard. You're in a panic mode, fighting everybody else doing it. So all these little things that you experience, you probably should write down and going, I'm going to fix this. I'm not going through this again.
Right.
Extension cords gone, that kind of stuff. And I'm going, wow, you would think this would be the first storm we've ever gone through. But,
Mm-hmm.
a little preparation goes a long way here, folks.
Yeah. Well, those are some good things to think about, Glenn. Before we get you back here in the studio, we'll revisit some of this stuff. Is there anything, knowing what the temperatures are going to get, up to about 38, 40 degrees over the next few days at its hottest point, which is not, or warmest point, I should say, and then it's going to just dip right back down. Is there anything you'd like to add, to this particular interview and talking about this?
Absolutely. If you have any kind of exposed pipes, if you have any kind of pipes that you suspect are underground and are frozen, I would keep an eye on it. Just kind of trace your water lines in your head where they go from either your wellhead to your house or your meter to your house. Start looking for wet spots. I doubt it's going to unfall that fast. But inside may definitely thaw that fast. A little bit of temperature change where something may have been froze up for several days have now had a chance to unthaw enough to cause a leak.
Okay.
Start looking for leaks. That would be my suggestion. And call your favorite plumber and see how busy he is right off the bat. Just, if nothing else, thank him for his prior service to you, because you may need him again.
Absolutely.
Other than that, keep the heat going, because it's going to, like you said, temperature going to drop right back down. So, yeehaw for 38 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it for that. That could cause a serious problem. So,
well, Glenn,
anything other than that, keep your local handyman handy. Is my suggestion.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you thaw out there at the Sustainable Living Complex and get back to the studio hopefully next week, and hopefully you're feeling better, Glenn. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.